what's okay. So I got cut off, but I was talking about, like, the level of generosity. A lot of Americans, they have no clue how blessed they are. They really don't. Um, the level of generosity most Americans have. And, I was just listing off things. So, I mentioned, like, many folks get free stuff. Strangers just send them stuff online. They usually have, like, a convenient kind of, an easy to understand story. And, where they're just, it's like a feel good story in a way. They're surviving, they're overcoming obstacles, they were in an unfortunate situation. Even if some of it was their fault, they're doing their best, they're overcoming. They show themselves as having a good attitude, as being humble, which Americans love. Uh, you know, the the lesser you can make yourself, and the less demanding you are, especially as a female, the more Americans will love you, and just, you're going to be in their favor, um, to be subservient, you know. Anyway, uh, so I mentioned that there's a lot of folks who, and I've seen it, who are getting stuff online for free. If you're, you know, in your 20s, let's say, like not that old as a female, you've got a convenient story, there you go. If you're a senior, you got a convenient story, there you go. Single mothers. So, we all know the stories. But if you're just somebody who society feels like your life should be thriving, you've got, your health, you've got all this time, your average looking somebody like me in my situation, we don't get shit, but it's fine. Um, but there's folks who do. Then other forms of generosity I mentioned is just having friends, significant other, family, any kind of connection that will give you their time. Like when you're sick, will come make sure you have your needs met, maybe give you some home cooked meals, come by, look after you, tend to you, because it is, I don't know, it kind of feels like it's interesting. When you're single and totally alone and you're sick, it does feel, I don't know, just, I don't know what the word is, insightful. I don't know. Kind of like you're dying in a sense, You get that feeling of, oh, you came into this world, you're going to die alone, kind of thing. Um, so, yeah, basically all the time when I was sick, the few times in my life I was sick, I had to basically deal with that on my own and look after myself. And there is a huge difference. So, just having those connections, somebody giving you their time, even if it's to get you to your job, uh, during hard times, or because that's what your life demands, your circumstances, that's something. Another thing is, when you can share the cost of living with somebody, that's a huge blessing. You know, you can share stuff, whether it's groceries or whatever it may be. You do save a lot of the times in America buying in bulk, which maybe as a single individual, you can't afford that, because in the long term, yes, you save, but in the short term, it's going to cost you more money. So, um, other ways I mentioned is, like, it's just shocking how, like, if some folks, if they really care about you and they know, usually it's just family who may do this, but they know you're in hard times and stuff. I even had a friend who I didn't even know this was even in the realm of reality, but I guess there's folks who will give their own credit cards in their own name, right? So that's the big one. It's just like, you know, you get a do-over. Kind of like, uh, you get another lifetime or something like that. You get to start from scratch in a sense. So there's folks, because I know there's a friend of mine who she gets access to her significant other's father, so her son's grandfather. Um, the grandfather has a card, right, in his name and everything, and he allows the friend and, his son, who's, and, together with, they've been together for years. This friend of mine and his son are together, right? And, the dad has like, the grandfather has a card, like a credit card, and he allows them access to the card. And I guess they have a verbal agreement of like, whatever money they use. It's essentially a loan, sort of. Like, the grandfather is not giving this money for free. The idea is that, they'll use that for emergencies or as a line of credit, and then in their own time or, monthly, they will give the money back to the grandfather. But theoretically, like, they don't really have to, they could leave or just not talk to him, like leave the country, leave the state, not talk to him, and he would be stuck with that mess, and it's not absolutely nothing. As somebody who has credit card debt, $800 in credit card debt, and you just ignore it, that's not nothing. So it's just crazy, because yeah, it's in his name, so he's going to be financially obligated and dealing with the credit cards and credit card bureaus and all that. He's going to have to deal with it regardless of what they do. Like, there's no way he can ensure he's going to get all his money back, you know, or he's going to get that credit card covered. So that's quite a bit of trust. But there are family members who will do that for each other. I've even heard of folks who will, my own family uh, members, like, I've not gotten a single vehicle from, not even used or anything, from a family member. So that's one of my issues. I can't afford a vehicle. So therefore, I don't drive, I don't have a vehicle. Uh, and so it is what it is. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm obligated to a vehicle and my family should cover the cost, but that's kind of the norm. Like, everybody I know, their first vehicle is covered by their mom, dad, whoever, family member. Um, and I didn't have that. So, you know, that's why it was kind of shocking to me when I learned that there are literally folks, like even friends, who will give their other friends or somebody, there are such generous individuals out there, although I'm sure it's not very common, but I have heard true stories of individuals gifting, literally gifting used vehicles and stuff like that to others. Um, you know, then you have, inheritance is a very real thing, and that's a very common tradition of folks. Usually, when they die, they will leave their stuff, or they'll leave something to somebody else, sometimes even several individuals. And you don't really hear real life stories about that. Like, I've never heard somebody say, oh yeah, I got this, via inheritance. My whoever, let's just say, for instance, uh, I got this inherited from my father, whoever. So yeah, we know about it. It's a thing. It's like a real legal cultural trend, or it's common, but it's still sort of those kind of things that are, hush hush. You don't talk about it. You don't even mention it in front of, strangers or new friends. Maybe you mention it with other family members and, your close friends, like, oh, this just occurred to me or whatever. But uh, It's just kind of frowned on socially, you know. Same thing as in America, we like to brag about the money that we do have, you know, like the citizens. That's what they do. They love to brag about their stuff and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the downsides, when it comes to the negatives, or if you're not like, you know, uh, even there's many folks who do have some financial stability and some wealth, and I know them myself, and even they don't talk about it, you know. I feel like the more money that somebody has, the less likely they're going to talk about it. Like folks with money just don't even, you know, mention those kind of details. It's very frowned on socially to talk about finances, you know. The middle class or whatever, sometimes they'll talk about it, or folks who just, you know, somehow get sort of a lot of quick money in the moments, you know, but they're clearly not used to having money. So, um, you know, the ones who are not used to having money, they will brag about it and tell everyone. But it's just interesting. It's interesting in a way. I feel like Americans talk about money a lot in some ways, but in others, they don't. You know, it's a very secretive, nobody knows about it. Because if you really start to think, you know, like, it's just kind of shocking and amazing to me. As I started meeting more individuals, kind of just noticing small things, like I would wonder, you know, like I knew how much my coworkers were, not exactly how much, but about, you know, like, you know, in low wage jobs, you know, that basically everybody is, you know, maybe making 20, 25 an hour, not much more than that. So they might be making a bit more than you, but, you know, you look at, you know, the things they're wearing, their habits, nails, especially females, and you wonder, it doesn't make sense. How can they afford this? Not on this salary for sure, you know? So as you get to know folks, you notice things. You notice they're not telling you certain things. Even like the kind of vehicles folks drive and stuff like that. But I think it's going to slowly come out because, yeah, folks are losing things quickly in America. There's definitely a very real loss, a very real financial difficulties for sure. You know, folks are seeing their income go down, their lifestyle is going down, they're you know, downsizing, living with less. They don't have access to as much money. You know, even earning money is taking longer. So, uh, you know, it's interesting. I was just trying to think of, I was watching some stuff on, you know, the recession and economic situation and, you know, folks saying how bad things are, but, you know, there was some contradictions. So it made me think like, how many Americans, um, are really, you know, in some trouble, who are really, really facing hard times. And I mean, like, they don't know where they're going to live in the next month and, you know, the next day, the next few weeks. You know, like their life is very insecure. They don't know where they're going to live. They don't, you know, have access to even a cent. They don't know if they're going to have their job, you know, within the next month. Like they don't know if they're even going to get another check, you know. Like they literally have to manage with just what they have, and that's about it. I don't know how many Americans are really in that situation. Um, so I think I was going to like title this and then what I was talking about before, you know, right before I got cut off. You know, how broke are Americans really? Or do Americans have money? Anyway, I think that's about it. I was going to talk about something else which was kind of connected to this, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. And I feel like it's just going to be mumbo jumbo. So I will wait until I can form my thoughts better. Anyway, that's it. It's just an interesting subject. I'm curious if you guys want to leave in the comments. How are you doing financially? How are things? Do you really feel like uh, your quality of life has changed a lot? What has changed? Oh, what I was going to talk about is like, what are some things that you've had to go without? Maybe that's what's going to be the title. What are some things that you've got to go without? So for me, there's been many, many things. So since February 2024 I've had no income, like absolutely nothing, besides tax refunds, and I got like $100 something check from where I used to work. I guess there was a lawsuit, but that's it. I am currently looking for other jobs, but you know, it's. I thought about it, and I'm like, it's taking me half a year to find something where it's somewhat decent. And I don't think I'm being that choosy, honestly. It's just finding something that, you know, is local, full time. Let's say it can be low wage, but at least, give me the hours. Something that's worth my time, not something, because I've done jobs before where it's like, sometimes they even lie to you. They say it's full time and then it's much less than that. And then they continue decreasing and decreasing. They tell you to come and they tell you your shift and then they tell you to leave much earlier. And it's just like, it's a waste of time. You have to come back and forth several times a week, almost every day, when you could have just came in, a few times a week, get your hours in, and that's it. I mean, if you're not going to even give me a decent wage, you're not going to give me full time uh, work, at least make it effective. Don't do the silly thing where you have me come in for what, 2-3 hours a day, and then it's going to cost me money each day to come back and forth. And it's just like, I've had managers, I've told them, I don't have a vehicle, but I've had good attendance and I can manage. I've taken lifts, I've taken Ubers, I've always basically figured it out. I've found a way. So you think like at least these managers would be a teeny bit flexible. Like, I'm not demanding anything just to be demanding. I'm demanding it because of my circumstances. I'm not even demanding it, but you would think like a decent manager would be considerate and would be like, yeah, I'm going to focus on at least making sure these kind of workers will have a reasonable schedule. Like, it just, even in my own life, if I'm not going to give somebody much of anything, if I don't have much to offer, I'm going to at least be considerate. Just doesn't make sense, especially if they are doing something for me as well. Anyway, yeah, so I've had to go without a lot. Things are, lately I've been getting several messages of, things I used to subscribe to, and they're saying, oh, your transaction didn't go through, your card's not working. So basically, all this stuff, if you've seen that I've subscribed to and shown you guys, all of that is canceled for now, unless somebody wants to, you know, donate and fund that. But right now I cannot afford it whatsoever. There's literally no money. So, yeah, I did mention that as kind of new information, that for now there will be no boxes or services um, that are going to be shown. I just have to use what I have. So that includes Meowsters, that's a cat box, BoxyCharm, Allure, Ice Cream Box. What are the other ones? I think that's about it. But yeah, it's kind of annoying. I had some small things to look forward to, and it was nice in a way getting those boxes, just knowing that, hey, there's something for you. Even if you didn't necessarily like what was in the boxes, like at least you've got something. Anyway, that kind of sucks. And then, even groceries, like, luckily I should have some funds coming in within the next few days, but the budget is kind of tight for me. I like variety, fruits, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. Um, I tried to eat healthy, and it's just tight to do that on a 200 something budget a month. That's what I have is like 285. But also, it's a weird situation, but my living situation now is where I'm getting things stolen constantly, food, you name it. Food especially, but you name it. So that's also why it's hard, is because I have to, rebuy items, rebuy what's been stolen, what's gone missing, and that costs money. So it's just dumb. If I had access to the food bank, which is like 20, $30 if I take an Uber to go back and forth, if I had access to that, it would be easier. But a lot of the times I don't. So it is what it is. Um, but yeah, if I had access to that and the 280 and my budget, I would be fine. But it is just annoying. There are times, like sometimes a week, usually towards the end of the month, sometimes a week, however amount of days, where there's a section of the month where I miss meals. I have maybe a meal a day, or and it also has to do with my beliefs too. Like I don't think it's a smart idea to, especially now with everything going on, to use all my food. I do like to have emergency food and emergency items. I don't like to just use everything that I have. So that's also why, um, you know, the budget is not quite enough to cover all these circumstances, to do things the way I'd like. So, I'd rather miss meals and have, uh, emergency stuff, have things saved for later, than, eat everything I have and then hardly have anything in case of an emergency. An emergency could be just, my own, like, job loss or whatever it is. Um, so it's kind of a habit, I guess. Uh, so, yeah, I've had to go without food sometimes. I've had to go without, like, uh, any kind of thing that's not a necessity, meaning I can only have, and that's kind of if I'm lucky, I can maybe find a way to get my necessities, but anything that's, not a necessity, that's a no for now, you know. And usually it's like I'll have a little bit for non necessities just to like have fun with, or get a few things from Dollar Tree, at least something. And now I don't even have that. So, it's sad, you know. It's kind of a loss. It's kind of a shame. Feels like a shame to me to not have anything. I guess to not be able to acquire anything new, because clearly I have some stuff. I'm not going to say I don't have anything. Um, and then, I've had no savings, so had to go without savings, I guess. Which, if you don't have like a vehicle, and you don't have savings, you can't have a vehicle. So you lose the ability to be mobile, especially in America. My friend is experiencing that now. I think the car she uses has basically totally broken down. Um, so, for me, it's not necessarily a loss because I've never had a vehicle of my own. But, that's something that I've had to go without having a vehicle. You think of just small things. Some individuals, they have to get their license for whatever reason, and that costs money in America. It's like $35, I think, fee to not even get your license, but just the first stage. Um, so, every little thing costs here. And the DMV, the authority that gives you your license in America, they don't cover the cost of anything. They don't give you a vehicle, so which they should. They should rent it out for the time. They should allow folks to that tells you that maybe like first time drivers are just really bad or something like that. Like maybe they think that, folks who will take the test are just going to like crash into so many, crash and break down and damage so many vehicles that they can't afford to do this. But, that just shows you how broken the system is. But I would think in like a functional country, you would have, cars that folks can use to take their driving test, at least for the test itself. But no, they don't do that because we can't be a functional country and not in America. Anyway, let's see what else I've had to go without. I guess maybe health. I mean, I already said food, but especially healthier food and stuff like that, sometimes that costs a bit. So I'm noticing now, I'm understanding why folks who don't have that much money, why they have to have like, if you have 285 a month or less for your monthly food budget, even just for one individual, uh, you're gonna learn that you're gonna be eating like more grains and stuff like that. Like what do they call it? Starts with an S. You're gonna have to eat a lot of affordable foods more than anything else. Like you cannot just eat fruits and vegetables and healthy stuff uh, throughout the whole month with that kind of a budget. So I'm definitely having to limit on fresh fruit, which is a shame. Uh, I was quite blessed as I was, in my childhood home. We always had fresh fruits, like a bowl of it. And sometimes it wasn't anything that fancy, but still. Um, let's see. Canned goods, which it's not really that big of a deal. It's not the best for you. But I was just kind of shocked. I thought, they would be like $1, maybe less than that. Now I'm seeing canned food in the grocery store is like several dollars. Like, this is not even the good stuff. Why does this cost more than, even some fresh fruit sometimes? It just doesn't make sense. Um, let's see what else. I mean, sometimes I've had to go without, hygiene. Usually not. Usually I'll still have some sort of hygiene item, but sometimes I'll have to go with less. Like certain kinds I may not be able to afford at one stage, so I have to, shrink my routine and the amount of items that I use. Um, so, like for instance, before maybe I could use several hair items. Now I may have to stick with just one kind. Uh, same with body wash and stuff like that. And now I'm feeling like body wash costs too much, so maybe I'll have to learn how to make my own or, use something else. I may have to just use the bar. Uh, so it's like, I think what I'm learning more so is that I'm having to make lots of modifications. It's just constant change and constantly adjusting to change, which I don't like. It's not in my nature. That's what being low income and not having much money is all about. Um, like my friend said, she's kind of in a similar situation. And she was like, oh, it's like an adventure. Your life every day is an adventure. Uh, let's see, what else have I had to go without? I don't know, kind of connections, friends, other human beings in a sense. Uh, well, that's kind of because of, I don't know, think it's very unique to my, financial situation necessarily. That has more to do with, uh, my emotions, how my living situation has affected me, the sort of messy, weird dynamics going on there. But, uh, I have had a feeling like, to be honest, I think, um, coming from where I'm coming from, middle class, lots of folks care about their finances, their material kind of stuff. And, they want to move forward and they want to have a fancier and more materialistic life. So if you don't fit in, they don't invite you anymore, and that's a very real thing. They don't want to cover the cost of your socialization. Like, let's say for instance you're all going out for dinner, or an event or something. They have to cover the cost if they have to take you. They don't want to deal with even the hassle or the time of taking you to the event, taking you back home. Let's say if you don't drive, that costs more gas, even though it hardly costs anything a lot of the times. But folks want to be greedy. uh, like, I've had folks say they can't take me to my job, which is literally in the next town over. They can't drive for less than 20 minutes because, oh, the cost of gas. When it's like, if you do the calculation, it's literally $1, maybe a few dollars max. I've had folks say, oh, I'm not going to take you to the food bank because of that, or I can't. It's nonsense sometimes. But, what they really want to say is, oh, I don't want to do the hassle. But uh, I kind of understand it on a friend level. Not necessarily, well, maybe it's sort of an age thing too. Like, when folks are trying to build their life and they just want new, they want new adventures, they want to start over, you know, they don't want to be held back. And unfortunately, when you're the friend or you're the individual who doesn't have money, that's what you're doing. You're holding others back. And folks get tired of it. They don't want to cover the cost. Let's say if everyone is going to an event, they don't want to cover the cost of a ticket, of your ticket. I don't know what went on with the lighting. Let me try to go inside. That's weird. Hold on. We have a technical issue there. That's better. Um, but I was just saying, like, friends don't want to cover they don't want the burden. They don't want the financial burden. They don't want, you taking their time. They don't want their day to be inconvenienced. They don't want the awkwardness. So that's what I've learned is, like, once I was not at the level that they were, you know, job wise, and they had a sense that, I wasn't going to be ambitious, Uh, I don't know. Once they saw that we had different goals in life,